Hello guys, my name is Jana and I'm really glad that you are here. Today in this video, as always, to be honest, on a new episode in my channel, I will tell you a little bit more about some board games, but this episode will be very special. Why? Because today you will get to know about my favorite board games that I have in my collection, and because of that I'm so excited. You know, I love talking about board games, of course I love playing board games, and yet about my top, the best of the best, my favorite board games, yeah, it's going to be a crazy trip through my best board games, so take your seats comfortable because this will be a really long video. But before we started, I will be very pleased if you write me in the comment section below about your best board games in your collections. And you know, I will even feel much better if you leave a like and, you know, share this video with other gamers around the world. So thank you very much for that, and now it's definitely time to get started. Dungeon crawlers are one of my favorite genres in the board games, you know, walking on dungeons or other dark corridors or catacombs, leveling up my heroes, find some treasures, equipping, sometimes falling into traps, and of course defeating various monsters in so many different configurations. This style of board game really appealed to me, so it shouldn't surprise that among my favorite board game is Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice. Okay, I know that in this board game we have a roof and canals, not dungeon. We have guardians, not monsters. And I think I can say that it's not dungeon crawler or roof crawler. What do you think? So while this adventure is more about running across rooftops or canals, as I mentioned, not dungeons, not fight with monsters, just like in traditional dungeons, it still captivates me. Playing as assassins, you will jump, sneak and take on missions tied to a broader campaign. In this board game, each scenario opens a further part of the story and builds the whole plot, and it's really great. And between missions, you will return to your quarters where you can heal, craft new equipment, and prepare for the next challenges, next adventures. However, the journey begins with setting up your base first. From there, you will create new tools and gear essential for future tasks. So that part of the game is some kind of camp phase. And what I like in this board game, I like the action planning in this part of the game. It's a game where working incognito is better, but not always possible. You know, alarms can be raised, drawing guards' attentions. Truth hideouts are available to regain your footing. The immersive atmosphere and gameplay in Assassin's Creed totally won me over. This board game has earned a spot in my board game heart. To open today's rankings, let me introduce the board game that pulled me like a black hole. In this board game, we don't have a black hole, but we have lots of pulsars. So, as you can see, Pulsar by Vladimir Suchy, and in this board game, the author of this game invites us on a journey into space where we will be using a lot of dice. So first we roll the dice pool, then we sort them results, and depending on which dice we choose and their values, they determine the actions we can take. And you know, in this game, the dice act as our workers. Pulsar is an Euro-style game, as we are collecting points, developing technologies and traveling across the cosmic map in our colorful spaceships. Whenever I look at these markers, I associate them with some kind of jelly beans, but okay, never mind. Pulsar is definitely one of my favorite board games, and this board game holds a special value for me because it's now out of printing in my country, and as you can see, I have this treasure in my collection. A moment ago I mentioned about dice mechanics, and in a next board game, which is one of my favorites of course, the dice play very important role, and this board game is Bitoku. Bitoku, the board game with a very oriental theme. In this board game we're building an engine to gain as many victory points as possible. What's important is which cards you play, when and where, as well as where you place your dice, your Kai Guardians in this game. We send them to different regions on the board to unlock new options and bonuses. It's a complex game, no doubt about it, but I actually enjoy that in Bitoku. It focuses you to think strategically and play creatively. Personally, I love the elements of negative interaction between players, blocking your rivals. There is a whole variety of other elements such as cards, lands of tokens and an explosion of colors that might give you a bit of visual overload. But Bitoku is a board game where I absolutely love blocking spots deliberately so someone else can't go there, can't earn points or build up their engine. So this very colorful board game is one of my favorites. Okay guys, time to next favorite board games, and it will be some kind of combines horror and madness from Lovecraft and struggle to survive in a hostile environment, something like in Mazzy's board games, but everything in this game is underwater. Ladies and gentlemen, Deep Madness, one of my favorites. In this board game, we dive into the underwater base as investigators, playing through various scenarios. One thing I really like is that the scenarios are connected into a campaign and offer different goals, different objectives. It's not always about defeating the main monster, the boss. So it's definitely not boring. As for the monster, I really like the system where we play who activates and when. It allows you to carefully decide which character stands where, what equipment they should have, and what their chances are to defeating enemies. This is a great tactical elements in this board game. Additionally, there's a madness track with the view marker. So the more monsters we kill, the further the marker moves, and we flip tiles to their crazy sides and spawning new horrors, new enemies. So again, it's definitely not boring. There is also an oxygen management mechanics as we dive underwater, since the action takes place on the station at the bottom of the ocean. So if you enjoy this kind of atmosphere in board games, Deep Madness is absolutely must-have. Before I introduce you to the next my best board game, let me reveal a bit what's going on behind the scenes. There is a lot of boxes, a lot of board games, and when I look around, I have to tell you that the next my best board game is the smallest one in this ranking, but okay, it's not about the size at all, right? It's very important what the board game like Pax Pamir offers you, and in my opinion, Pax Pamir offers you absolutely fantastic playthrough. I think it stands out because it's not a difficult game in terms of rules, but it's not easy to understand and figure out how it works. So What is it? In short, we're buying cards from the market and building a row of cards, our tableau. These cards will allow us to perform various actions. Among other things, we will be to send units to the map or board, however you want to call it. And this game has a very specific map. It's not just about the map, it's also about how tightly packed it is. Units, or our tokens, are another unique element in this board game, because if they stand, they are units. If they lay down, they are some kind of trade routes. And the connections between different regions are very important. That's absolutely wonderful once we figure out how this board game works. And when we do, it really works excellently. So if you like economic, strategic board game, but also those with lots of discussions and negotiations at the table, I think that Pax Pamir should appeal to you as it did to me. So the next one of my favorite board game. And now it's time for a little journey. Maybe you know how I love all kind of adventures, and in this case, in this place on my top list favorite board games, there will be some kind of adventure, some kind of journey through the different editions, the same series of the board games. And as you can see, Descent second edition, and in the same place Descent third edition, and also I will show you expansion for the third editions. As you can see, I decided to place them all together because all these board games are different board games but the same series, so I think it will be okay. As for the latest version of Descent, I've been playing it quite a bit. It's a game where you need a lot of table space. I mean, you have arranged these three-dimensional or three-layer boards, various tree and other elements, which take some time. Okay, but back to the game. So we have, in this board game, we have an application that guides us through the entire story and even handles all the enemies we will be battling against. This allows our heroes to level up, and we can equip them with better and better gear to prepare them to the next adventures. Cooperative, playing through various adventures, and I also really like these elements. As soon as we finish the scenario, it's about buying and equipping our characters. This is something I really like about the design. As for the Journey in the Dark, so second edition of Descent, I really enjoy the variant where you can play as the bad guy, so we can stand against each other playing the different roles. On the other hand, in general, both the second edition and the third edition of the Descent series are board games that I really like and that offer me great adventures in a fantasy world. So both Descent second and third edition are one of my favorite board games. What do you say for a little break for a tea? So please join me at the table. I will add a pinch of madness and I will show you my next best board game which I have in my collection, and as you can see, it's Wonderland's War. I really like this game. In Wonderland's War, first we sit at the table and then move around because we won't quite know which card to collect, and we will do it step by step. After this fits and this part where the tea party happens, we will go to War, Wonderland's War. At the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, we gather cards that allow us to, among other things, build towers, recruit units, because don't forget, we are preparing for war. This is just a seemingly peaceful moment at the table, but it's not really peaceful there. Don't forget, they are crumbs of madness, so don't collect too many. Then the entire board of Wonderland is divided into regions, and we need to plan where we want to fight, where we want to take control, and all of this is generally mixed with madness. So to sum it up, it's worth not drawing too many madness tokens, truth we have some influence on it. So we will manage to recruit inhabitants of the land, will manage to upgrade our leaders and try to win battles in the regions of that land. Wonderland's War is a great combination of atmosphere of Alice of Wonderland with a board game in this case, which absolutely capture my board game loving heart. So in this ranking of my favorite board games, it had to be here. Next place, and again here I decided to combine two board games with the same series, with the same line, and you have to know that one of this board game I value more, a little bit more than the other. As you can see, Dune Imperium and Dune Imperium Uprising, one or both of my favorites. However, I absolutely look at the original with sentiment, which is still excellent board game. As you can see, I have both because I can part with the first one. So when it comes to deck building, which is combined here with a worker placement mechanics, Dune does it absolutely masterfully. Therefore, it will matter which cards we equip our hand, our deck, our cards based on those cards. We will be playing them one by one, sending our agents to specific spaces on the board, which will give us specific bonuses. And from the remaining cards, when we run out of agents to place, we can use them to strengthen our military power or to buy more cards to develop our deck. All of this is very well integrated, in my opinion, with the entire Dune universe, and it fits perfectly with the struggle for power in this world. As for Dune Imperium Uprising, new elements are added here, including spies and the possibility of some kind of reserving areas for our agents, and of course, riding big box in the desert. Absolutely epic, so they must be among my top board games. Okay guys, the next place about my favorite best board games, and again I decide to combine not one, not two or three boxes, three board games with the same series, and I think that I can say that this board game will be something special for ranchers. As you can see, Great Western Trail, in this case second edition, but the next one is Great Western Trail Argentina and Great Western Trail New Zealand. So as you can see, three boxes, but board games with the same series are one of my favorites. So let's go step by step. The trip to the Wild West, where we will drive our cows to the train through the prairies, and there are different surprises waiting for us, including Native Americans, more or less friendly, truth mostly less. This journey is long, winding and complex, so we will be building buildings, and it's nice if other players can benefit because it gives us bonuses, and of course we will take care of development of our herd of cows. So here we are building our deck. In the case of Argentina, there are many more paths to follow on the board, and here indeed there are no Native Americans, but there are farmers we can ally with to have them what do you think about something grand, about something great, about something really big? And I don't just mean the side of the box, because as you can see, it's not a small in the same way, it's not a huge. I have biggest in my collection, but this is the one of my best board game, ladies and gentlemen, The Great Wall. Truly great board game, and in this board game we will be taking on the role of great commanders to send our units, our armies and our forces to the Great Wall. What's ironic about Great Wall is that although it's not a cooperative game, we will be cooperating since we need to defeat the Great Wall from the Mongol horde which has decided to attack. So we try to prevent the wall from being destroyed, which is the cooperative element, but actually in this game each of us take on asymmetric commanders, and will increase these asymmetries by choosing different advisors. Each of us tries to gain the most honor points, mainly by sending units and defeating the hordes attacking. And what is interesting in this board game, the Mongol horde is not another player. There is no asymmetry in this sense. I must say that this combination of cooperation and competition, which is the main theme here, works absolutely epically in this board game. This is why this game is among my favorites, even though it isn't in the first place or even on a podium. It's not about the largest box, but rather which game captured my heart absolutely epically. This is why this board game is among my favorites. In a moment I will show you really big box, really huge box, and this game, this board game was the most anticipated board game for me before they realized, and you know, I'm not disappointed. As you can see, Nova Etas Renaissance is one of my favorites. Regardless of the decisions we make in this game, at any given moment, our story will follow a path, leading us somewhere, pushing us forward in terms of story development. What I also like is managing not only time, but also activations, where we have to think carefully about what actions to take, how much time it will take, and how it will affect the progression of the game on the track with new activations. Usually in board games of this type, we often have systems like initiative, but here it's resolved by this kind of clock that sets the order of actions taken by heroes and enemies in turns. At the same time, it also counts down the time of the scenarios. And as you can see from the box, there's a lot of hours of fantastic gameplays waiting for us, and I'm sure that all adventure game lovers will really enjoy it. It captured my heart so much that, as you can see, it's among my favorites, and I recommend this game not only because it's great thematic 3D buildings or different obstacles we place on the map, but also because of the awesome miniatures which I should paint. However, time is pressure, I can stretch it, so for now I prefer to focus on adventure, which is colorful, and later I will take care on the miniatures to make them even more colors. And now another place and another of my favorite board games. Are you curious? Today in this episode I have impressions that I talk a lot about size of the box, my best board games, and you know, it's not important, but the next of my favorite board games is similar about size to Pax Pamir, but offers absolutely amazing, combine my favorite mechanics, I mean deck building and area control. As you can see, Tyrants of the Underdark, and this is not only to fans Dungeons and Dragons. Tyrants of the Underdark has some imperfections, such the appearance of the tokens, but this can be easily replaced or fixed. But when the mechanics are perfect, nothing else matters, and here it works simply wonderfully. So we build a deck, try to combine effects from different cards and combine factions to achieve more on the map, where we'll also aim to take control to some areas, pushing others out to dominate location in this dark world. What draws me the most in this board game is the combination of deck building mechanics with control over the areas, meaning we need to carefully plan which cards to draw, which one to buy, where to place them, how to build our deck, and how to play them. It's about how those decisions relate to the current situation on the map, where we have control, where we can potentially move things around. I really enjoy getting into this aspect in this board game. Although this game visually does not impress, in terms of gameplay, it makes a really stunner on my table every time I play it. So Tyrants of the Underdark, it's not only for lovers of Dungeons and Dragons universe, it's a great way to spend a wonderful time. Mr. Lang, Eric Lang, created the board games that takes us to Egypt, and that is one of my favorite board games for many reasons. Maybe because I love sunny, warm and hot, or maybe because I like area control, and in Ankh Gods of Egypt we have this kind of mechanics. What I particularly like in the simple action selection mechanics combined with the event track, which gives us something to think about. The events bring bonuses and actions that I don't necessarily want to make available to other players, and how I manage my actions and move my marker on the event track can accidentally give gifts to others. And we don't give gifts here because it's about competition. In this game, we manage our gods, develop their abilities, and build points on the board related to the gods development, which is tied to the event track. The mechanics are quite simple, but everything comes together, including the area control mechanics on the map. We can divide this area and occupy spaces to gain resources, which influences the order of the battles. A critical aspect in this board game, and I really enjoy having control over that, and thanks to the caravan mechanism I can feel that sense of influence. Overall, I love the clever combination of mechanics that gives this game depth. In addition, Ankh Gods of Egypt works absolutely great for 2 players, which in a game with area control mechanics usually doesn't not go hand in hand, and here I'm very happy to play in 2 players and have a great time going. So this board game is also on my list of favorite board games. Am I a fan of cosmic travel? Do you know? Definitely, yes, and I often engage in it in various board games, and this one, again, one of my favorites, unexpectedly took over my table, and to be honest, took over my board game heart. As you can see, it's not a new board game, but for me, Eclipse was a very new experience. But here is not about new board games, but about this, my favorites, therefore. So it conquered my table so much that here we are. Eclipse, it's a large 4x game, so In this board game, we are explore the map. We will expand the size of the area by climbing new territories on the map. We will exploit our areas and expand some minerals or resources. And of course, we will exterminate other players or some guardians in this game, engage in cosmic battles. So Eclipse is a much faster game compared with, for example, Twilight Imperium, although it's streamlined in comparison, especially when it comes to discussions around the table, you know, negotiations and alliances. It captures the essence of space exploration. In this game, we uncover new tiles and we never know what resources we will find or how we will expand our technologies to build stronger ships and fight either guardians or, of course, other players. This adds up to gaining points, which I really like in this game. And I also appreciate how actions are tied to game's progress, civilization, and whether I can afford it. So absolutely, Eclipse conquered my board game heart, and in this way, this board game found its place among my favorites. Now, time for absolutely ruler of your table, the ruler of time and true behemoth in space version. And I can tell you that you don't just sit down and play Twilight Imperium for a few hours. You need to whole day or even whole weekend. Here we manage one of the many diverse space factions and fight for domination of the huge, enormous universe. At the beginning of each turn, we choose from 8 strategic cards or strategic tokens that decide the order of actions taken by players, as well as provide a strategic action associated with a particular tokens. Then players move the units on the map, so there are shifts, we resolve potential battles, and at the end we met to turn everything upside down. I mean, pass a new laws, which is the core of the game. There is a lot of talking over the table, a lot of negotiations, a lot of bluffing, and a lot of interaction with others, which is probably what I love most about this board game. So if you love space themes like I do, it provides everything you need and many more. This game is so immersive that you just can't help but get absorbed in it. It's a pity that day doesn't stretch longer, because I think many would expect it just to play this epic title, which is, as you can see, among my favorites. And now it's time to face truly difficult opponents, and I will tell you that it's all in a card game, because I really like card games, especially ones that are demanding, ambitious and frustrating. As you can see, Aeon's End, in this case, second edition, is one of my favorite, in this case, card game. This is a game where you must arm yourself with better and better cards. This is a game when you don't know when your opponent, Nemesis, will appear, because as the deck is shuffled and we have no influence on what will be revealed, whether it's heroes or this time your opponent's Nemesis. But in this game we do have an influence on which card will appear in our hand and in what order. Of course, we also have an influence on how we build this deck. By setting aside cards and playing them, we will later draw them and play them, so the most important thing is the planning, which is something I absolutely love in Aeon's End. It gives me feeling that I'm planning it all myself, and I really have to think carefully to later combine the cards well and create a strong, powerful deck. Additionally, I must make sure to properly activate the gates and prevent Nemesis from winning. This is why I enjoy this game. It can be quite challenging and difficult, but that's the motivator. When it doesn't work out, you just start over and try again, and now it will work out. You hear me, Nemesis? My outfit today says a lot about the next of my best board games, but I have another hint for you. I like Magic. As you know, I like card games and I like play the cards in many different ways, and also I like take combats. Okay, so my next, the best favorite board games, as you can see, is Black Rose Wars Rebirth. If you want to listen and see, of course, what the differences are between the first part and the second one, I mean Black Rose Wars and Black Rose Wars Rebirth, then check out my video when I compare the two boards for you. I will leave the link in the description below. Now, few words about Black Rose Wars Rebirth. So, just like the first part, the wizards come onto the board to fight using spells. First, we need to plan out which part of the card we want to use, which power to activate, whether to attacking another wizard, set a trap, dodge a move, or summon some otherworldly beasts. And what I really appreciate in this board game is that I get to build my deck using various School of Magic, combining all these effects. I have many options, so I feel like I have an influence on the cards in my deck and how to play them. So I plan what to prepare for my opponents based on the situation on the board and where the other wizards are placed on the hexagonally modular map. Black Rose Wars fits me asymmetric perfectly when it comes to graphic design, and this definitely adds to my desire to return to the game and play it again. So it's definitely among my favorite board games in this top list in 4th place. So now the podium. This trend has left, but mine came back, and I think I can say that this is the best legacy game I've played and one of my best board games at all. As you can see, a legacy version of Ticket to Ride, in this case, Legends of the West. I played through the whole legacy campaign with my family and everyone had a fantastic time. It brings the joy of playing that cherish most of the board games. Not only my joy, but also of my fellow players. Seeing their smiles and hearing their excitement about winning or scoring the most points, I have many wonderful memories of this board game. About Pullout, again this board game, the publisher had limited some aspects, but you can easily, with some home rules, add some elements without running the gameplay. In fact, in my opinion, it makes it better. Now I won't spoil too much here because, you know, legacy games are about discovery and I don't want to spoil the fun. Basically, in this game we will go through the stages, adding new elements from different boxes, playing more adventures and seeking new stickers onto our path, striving to earn as many points as possible and this way creating unique game version. I really enjoy the atmosphere of the Wild West, so this definitely had an impact on how much everyone, like in this game, each of my family members also shares these Western vibes. So this legacy version of Ticket to Ride in the form of Legends of the West, it's one of my favorite board games. Could it be better? Of of course, because we still have 2 spots left and something more at the end of this video. This game, one of my favorite board games in this ranking, my best board games, in a second place, takes us for a very distant times when our planet Earth was just being to form, and with it many different species. My best board games in second place in this ranking is Dominant Species. The Dominant Species Marine I have in my collection and I like those as well. However, Dominant Species gives me that thrill of figuring out where I will reserve my actions, where I place my marker first, and how I will plan everything. In Marine version, the action happens immediately on the map, but here, in Dominant Species, you first need to plan it out. It's important to think ahead about where someone might take your spot or block our action, and only then does everything move to the board. There we placed our cubes, migrate, reproduce, and all those stuffs occur. Meanwhile, we must remember that the Ice Age is coming, and I will tell you, Dominant Species is a game that, thanks for Polish publisher Phalanx, has improved graphically, so now I can say that this game is really pretty. Sometimes you can get dizzy just by counting the advantages, but that's not really what the game is about. It's more about how to plan, which actions to block, and how that will impact what happens on the map. The situation on the map changes so quickly and dramatically that sometimes our plans end up being completely irrelevant in relation to what's actually happening as a result of blocking actions with our markers. It's truly a demanding game that requires focus and thinking, so the battle for control of the Earth absolutely captivated me from the first impressions, and it's definitely one of my favorites in my board game collection. Now time could stop, especially when it comes play my favorite board games. So what is it? This huge board game offering us exploration and known corners of whole universe, whole cosmos, and maybe some of you already know that my favorite board game is ISS Vanguard. In this huge board game, I explore new systems, discover new planets, but most importantly, I manage not only the journey itself, but also my whole ship, the ISS Vanguard. Everything happens in my binder, and it's a very cool idea to go through different stages of the game by flipping through its pages, which also helps me remember the different phases in this board game. So first, I choose the appropriate lander, equip it, and then proceed to explore another planet. Not always in ISS Vanguard does the game end in a battle with some alien life form, but such encounters can indeed occur. In this game, managing to the entire ship, the entire crew, planning the next expeditions, acquiring space, discovering the secrets of our hidden in visited star systems, new galaxies is extremely exciting. This is, in my opinion, such kind of a never-ending adventure. Here one has such a desire to want more, to want to recommend it further, to discover new, unusual and totally surprising things. Great storyline, super application that conquers the atmosphere, and I feel like I'm really getting on that big spaceship and spending through the unknown distance, corners of pace, great experience during each gameplay. So currently, this is my best board game which I have in my collection. Okay guys, at the end of this video I have one more very important thing, because you don't know that in addition of this ranking, this list of my favorite board games, I have such a Hall of Fame, and this is a pool of board games that I consider it the best of the best. So now a quick overview of them all. One of these games is Nemesis, the board game, and here both the first Nemesis and Nemesis Lockdown, that is the second part of this series. I love both of them and I'm looking forward to the third edition, sadly already the last one, I mean Nemesis Retaliation, but you know, I think certainly here will join soon. What board games are still here? There's the Edge, a massive box with tons of plastic inside, but mostly epic board games, and for the size of this game, it's really surprisingly fast to prepare to set up this board game, and absolutely I love this giant. The next game from the Hall of Fame is another big box, that is Gloomhaven. Who doesn't know this massive adventure in a fantasy world? But I will tell you right away that I've also added a smaller sister here, which is much more accessible, that is Gloomhaven Juice of the Lion. Both of them are here because I appreciate and enjoy both of them very, very much. There is also something cosmic from the Star Wars universe here, and that board game is Star Wars Rebellion. So many wonderful emotions I had with playing this board game. Absolutely great board game. Therefore, it couldn't not miss here. It's definitely my game of all time. But I have an even greater relic, such an artifact of mine, because from this game, my adventure with board games many years ago began. And despite its imperfections, I love this game and have a great fondness for it, and it's Warhammer Invasion. In my collection, of course, I have many add-ons, and such a set will stay with me forever. But there is also my favorite board games from 2 and 3 years ago in this kind of top list, my favorite board games, which is Etherfield's Dream Crawler, a great campaign. Each dream is a new adventure in this game and a surprising storyline. And there are still many games of this game ahead of me, because I would love to play with expansion to this board game as well. So guys, as you can see with me, a few boxes, the best of the best, the few board games with my Hall of Fame, and all these board games are out of competition, but I'm really curious what are your favorite board games in your collection, so write me about it in the comment section below, and I invite you to be active there. And you know, if you like this video, it will be really great if you leave a like and maybe share this episode, this video with other gamers. Now I hope to see you again soon. Merry Christmas, guys, Happy New Year, and see you in next video. Take care of yourself and bye bye.
You're my music, but you tear me to pieces. So where